Hello, I'm Toycat, and there are over a dozen choices of how you get around in Minecraft. You can move at 1.3 meters a second, or you can move at over 700. The choice is yours, and today I want to show you every single form of transportation because this is the ultimate transportation guide. And let's start with the first and simplest of these, because the simplest method to get around is simply to crawl. This is the smallest way that you can be as a player, and there's a couple of ways that you can do this. One is to use a piston, another is to use a simple trapdoor, have it close on top of you, and then you'll start crawling. Crawling is a lot like swimming, but much slower, and it moves you at just 1.3 blocks per second. Every block in Minecraft is equivalent to 1 meter or 3 point something feet, but let's be honest, 1 meter because it's a Swedish game, and so no infrastructure is needed to crawl, but it is a very slow way of getting around unless you add some Swift Sneak leggings. Swift Sneak leggings will move you up to about double that speed, which is very handy, both for this and for sneaking or crouching. So what you call this is up to you, but the way you do it is you activate the sneak button, and if you're on a keyboard and mouse, this is something you have to hold down the entire time. If you're on a controller or touch, you press it once, and then you're locked in until you press it again. This allows you to move at about 1.3 blocks per second, but allows you to go in spaces up to 1.5 blocks tall, and crucially, unlike crawling or walking, you can't fall off the edge of the block. Even when you're literally not walking on it, as long as you're crouched, you can't fall off unless you're knocked by water, something I really don't recommend, by the way. Speaking of things I don't recommend, walking. Why would you walk around anywhere in your world besides trying to avoid wasting hunger? This is a 4.3 meters a second way to get around, and it's faster than sneaking, but that's literally the only thing we can say. It's a way to not waste hunger, but if you're willing to just use a little bit of that, try running instead. This moves you at 5.6 blocks a second, and then if you add some jumping to the mix, it goes up to 7.1. I didn't believe this, but I did in fact test it, and 7.1 blocks a second is the speed of jump running, so if you want to get around the world, then you're going to need to do that, but the faster and the more you run, the quicker your hunger will deplete, and when starving, you can't run anymore. So you need to be well stocked in terms of food if you want to go that fast, but we can go even faster than this if we use swiftness. So if we use swiftness 1, we get a 20% increase, giving us 8.5 blocks per second when sprint jumping, or when jump sprinting with speed 2, we can go at 9.88 blocks per second. This is seriously fast, but you know, on our mile per hour counter, on our blocks per second counter, which is the actual measurement for Minecraft, we're still not really that far up on there, are we? Because we can up this even further by choosing to use speed and swift sneak. So, not soul speed, rather. Swift sneak and soul speed are similar enchantments. They came out for hard structures that you can get, but soul speed is handy not for sneaking around or crouching around, but instead is handy for using anything which is soul based. So right now this is only soul sand and soul soil, but if you have soul speed boots on, as I now do, you can move across this much faster. So this is the speed just walking, this is the speed sprinting, and let me show you something fun. The speed when sprinting plus soul speed 3 plus swiftness 2 will give us a 61.5% speed increase, which looks like this. Ooh, okay. One of the faster ways that you can move as a player, but if you want to move even faster and not waste hunger, you can simply ride a pig. This is the first of the rideable animals that Minecraft added, and it allows you to move at 4.19 blocks per second, slightly slower than walking, but without any hunger use whatsoever. If you use a carrot and a stick, you can up this quite substantially, and as long as you've got enough of these carrots on a stick, you can continue to do precisely that. However, if you don't like using consumables, try a horse. A horse can move much faster than this. How fast can a horse move, I hear you asking? Well, a horse can move, depending on the variety you have, up to 14.23 blocks a second. To get this perfect top speed horse, you need to find 2 good horses, and then you need to get some golden carrots. We'll do that right now, and we could breed each of these horses, and they might make a faster offspring, and if we keep breeding the fastest offspring together, eventually we might get to 14 blocks a second. However, what's worth mentioning about the horse is you can't go in a less than 2 block area because you will start to suffocate, and also the horse cannot swim in 2 block deep water. This is one of the most tragic things in Minecraft. Look at this. I'm in the water and my horse is now trapped in there. You have to punch him or nudge him if you want to get him out, and that is really painful. Also, horses can't fit in boats anymore, so when it comes to crossing the oceans, you might be better off on foot. You're definitely not better off on a donkey. This is just a slow horse from a movement point of view. It moves at 7.38 blocks per second max, which is just slightly more than when you're jumping and sprinting, sprinting, but keep in mind that unlike jumping and sprinting, it is not guaranteed it's up to that much. So I wouldn't recommend a donkey. Instead, I'd recommend leaving them in here and moving on to, if you needed to have the storage, oh look, my pig is here, a mule. So I went into how you get a mule in my pet video last time, but their top speed is 14.5 blocks per second, and interestingly enough, the problems that horses and donkeys have are duplicated here, but the benefits of both a horse and donkey are too. So you move fast, but also you can equip a chest as storage. So I'm gonna go do that right now. Let's grab a button and let's put it straight onto the mule. Isn't that lovely? So now I've got storage that moves along with me. You can also do something similar with a camel if you want to. So camels are much slower. Also, look at that, by the way. I accidentally started crawling myself by activating the trapdoor above me. So let me show you the camel. This is a big mob which 2 players can ride. However, its biggest benefit is being able to cross ravines and drops, and its biggest downside is its speed. It's so much slower than horses. It's the only animal you can sprint on. Here's me walking, here's me sprinting. It's a weird choice that many people forget about, but even while sprinting, it's pretty darn terrible, and so what I recommend doing is just letting it go into lava. Sorry, buddy, I just don't need you anymore. By the way, when it dies, he's gonna have a fun message in chat. Or maybe he won't. But you know what will be in fun message in chat? This next one, because Striders are a fun choice. Okay, this one's already found a rider. If you are willing to lay down a lava path, as I am totally willing to, if you're willing to just do that and you're willing to find a Strider which is the right size and variety. Man, these Striders spawn with lots of things on their heads. I'm sorry to murder you, but I need to be on top of there. I hope you don't mind. Yeah, I have to murder this guy. Sorry about this little Strider, but you are currently taking a spot on a Strider that I would like instead. So if you would like to move across your world and you're willing to make a lava patch first, simply jump on a Strider. These are the cutest mobs in Minecraft, and if you kill their babies, you will feel like a monster. I can speak from first hand on that one. But if you're riding one of these, you can actually move at a really decent speed. It is about 5 blocks a second, and then when you add the warp fungus and a stick, you can go way faster than this. This is one of the fastest ways around your world, but you need to have lava there. Oh, come back, come back, come back, I miss you. You need to have the lava already there, and so for most parts of your overworld, it's impractical or expensive. What should you do instead if you're already willing to do impractical and expensive? Ice road. So you can ride boats in your Minecraft world, the Gypsy F12 or the toy boat L48, but interestingly enough, if we grab either of these boats, we can ride them across water just fine, but if we ride them across ice, because of a bug which Minecraft fans were so in love with that Bojang indeed decided not to patch, you can move up to 40 blocks per second on an ice pathway. Look at this. 40 blocks per second, that's so much faster than anything else. This is the go-to for basically everyone who plays Minecraft because it goes up to 40, oh, it's actually 40 blocks per second on her packed ice as well, but this won't melt from light sources, so this is pretty darn nice. I mean, actually, it's pretty darn packed ice if I have to say so myself, but if you want to know the best version of this, blue ice. This is 72.73 blocks per second max speed, and it won't melt, and it's very hard to break, but the catch is it's very expensive. 81 ice equals 1 blue ice, so even to make enough ice for this pathway, we're talking thousands of ice with silk touch need to be mined. But look at the speed. 80 blocks per second is insane, especially when compared to the minecart, which is the traditional alternative. A minecart moves at 8 blocks per second. That isn't a typo. That isn't a horrific mistake I've made in this video. Look at this. You can see for yourself, this is just about faster than sprint jumping, but not faster than soul sand or a strider or a horse. It is a very expensive thing to make. You have to place all these rails yourself, and you get to go 8 blocks a second. This used to be much faster on the console edition, but you know, they decided not to port that into Bedrock or into Java, and so the only benefit of the minecart is you can move not just players and mobs, but also chests and hoppers. And if you're on Java, there's a furnace minecart we won't reference, but also minecarts of TNT. So I would say the TNT minecart is one of the fun reasons you might enjoy doing this. They will activate when you push them over something, but realistically for players, this is not a good form of transport. I do not recommend it unless you want to do a fun way to fix people into place, and you want to do it without any movement required whatsoever, because fun fact, when you're on powered rails, like this minecart is, it can be pushed there without any human intervention, and whereas if I move minecart on a horse, then, you know, the horse might explode, but also I have to move the horse myself. Speaking of horses that might explode, you might feel that way when you get on a boat on water after riding on ice. You go max 8 blocks per second on this too. Actually pretty well balanced against the minecart. So, yeah, this requires no food, and you can have a chest boat, but it can't traverse up blocks very well. You'll need to have a bucket if you want to do that, and if you want to go down, it sort of works. It's kind of fun. I have a boat ladder in my world, but it's not the best thing in the world, and keep that in mind as we talk about Dolphin's Grace. This one has to be mentioned. Oh, goodbye, Dolphin. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you. This one has to be mentioned because, yeah, if you have Depth Strider on your boots, you can move pretty fast, but add this to Dolphin's Grace, and you can go up to 8 blocks per second in the water. That's as fast as a boat without requiring a boat, which is nice. And, yeah, we can actually move up to 48 blocks per second. Wait, how is that possible? That seems insane. Okay, there's a space in there that I've decided to add. You can move for 8 blocks per second. Isn't this handy? Yes, it is. So yeah, you can move up to 8 blocks a second with Depth Strider. Very, very lovely effect, it has to be said. Speaking of lovely effects, let's talk about vertical transportation before moving into the very bests. So ladder were released in 2010, and just like vines, allow you to climb at just under 4 blocks a second. It's a nice way to get up. You can do this with scaffolding from 1.14. You can do this with the Crimson and the Warped Vines from 1.16. These are lovely ways to get up and down, but all of these have the exact same speed, so when it comes to vertical transportation, you can't move much faster than this without using either slime block launchers, look how fun this is, or using bubble columns. This is the fastest way to vertically move in your world, and it's the one that I totally recommend, especially if you wanted to go to an end city. Wow, is there one in the sky here? How fast does an Elytra go? Well, here's the problem. The Elytra max speed depends on the angle and the pitch, and so we can't give you numbers, except I'm just kidding. Let's give you some numbers anyway. So if you move at a 52-degree pitch, measuring this was hard, you can move at 67.3 blocks per second, but if you move at a 90-degree pitch, that is to say straight down like this, you can get up to a maximum speed, a terminal velocity of 78.4 blocks per second. This is the fastest you can move in the overworld without an ice boat, and it is a very, very limited speed because realistically most people, when they're flying an Elytra, they're going to be flying with a rocket boost, or at least they're flying vertically, which means your max speed is actually 33.5. This is still an incredibly fast speed. Look at just how much I can get around here, but it is very much limited compared to deciding to drop vertically or deciding to use a blue ice boat. So just keep that in mind, that this is maneuverability and this is no infrastructure, but it's not the fastest way that you can move. Speaking of fastest ways to move, ender pearls. If you throw these at a 15-degree angle, that is to say this would be 0 degrees, this would be 90 degrees, 15 degrees is the sweet spot, and so that has been lined up lovelily here using a little target, which if I shoot just above and have more than 2.5 hearts, because fun fact, that is damage you may take, you also might get an endermite spawning, so it does have some downside, but you move very, very quickly, and it allows you to traverse all sorts of gaps where there is not even any infrastructure and no way to do it. It does require lots of ender pearls, and so you need to farm it in a very real way, and so most people won't use this as a major transportation method because of the danger and everything else attached. Speaking of danger, Tridents. You can use these with Riptide, and you can move pretty fast through large bodies of water, but you move much faster when you go out of those bodies. The Riptide Trident can then be combined with an Elytra to go for a little bit of a speed through the air, speed through the water and speed through the air. Very, very lovely. You can also use this when it's raining anywhere in your world. Look at me, I am flying so fast. This means of transport is a very hard one to guarantee because you need an Elytra and you need to make sure you only travel through biomes where it does rain. If you go into one of these, then you'll lose your ability unless you fly slightly higher up. Also, you reach the point where you eventually start to damage Minecraft's generation of the world. The lag will get intense and you might eventually hit an invisible wall, but at this point you can go hundreds of blocks per second. We're talking 300, 400, even higher is possible depending on your device and how much water you can run into, but it's not the fastest way across a Minecraft world. Why is that true? It's true because there is no rain in the Nether. This should be useful to know. There's no rain in the Nether, which creates one crucial problem, and that is the fact that the Nether is the fastest way to move when combined with any other form of transport. You move 8 times faster in the Nether, not because the Nether is a super speed dimension, but because every 8 blocks in the overworld are represented by 1 block in the Nether. This means that this short journey here between 2 portals, which are just over 10 blocks away, is actually a journey of over 80 blocks in the overworld. I think it's about 100 blocks, which means if these portals were 100 blocks apart, it would be 800 blocks in the overworld. And so if you combine this with a blue ice pathway, blue ice moving you at those super speeds from before, multiply those by 8, and we get the fastest form of transport. And so how do you move around fast in Minecraft? It depends how long your journey is, how much infrastructure you're willing to build, and if you're willing to go through the Nether. If it does, then take advantage of the rain with a Riptide, Trident, and an Elytra, and this will be the fastest way to move, except for 2. This is an ultimate transportation guide, and so let's talk about one of the fastest ways to travel, death. You will immediately move to your spawn point, and some players play with keep inventory on, which means that if you're just willing to die for the cause, which I think is a little bit bold, but if you're just willing to die and jump down a giant hole, then you can do pretty great for yourself, because you'll immediately teleport from your death spot to somewhere else in the world with all of your stuff intact. But look at me, I'm all the way over here in an instant. That technically gives it a blocks per second of infinite, and that blocks per second of infinite is sort of technically just about matched by this over. Okay, should not have done that. Let's fly back up, by the way. Let's to show you this infinite blocks per second, allow me to go from literally a million blocks away in a single instant to literally the spawn. That is a million blocks covered in a fraction of a second, and so yeah, infinite blocks per second. This is technically matched. If we want to be fully comprehensive for the ultimate guide, we do have to mention that you can teleport. This requires cheats to be turned on. It is not widely accepted as a valid form of transport, but you can do it, and so you can manifest this with a command block, but dying and using the teleport command are usually not perfect. You can also use an end portal and you'll instantly teleport, but between dimensions, so it's also not generally considered, but those are all of the main transportation methods in Minecraft. Speaking of major things in Minecraft, let's talk about this lovely spyglass right here, which as you can see, there's a sign off in the distance. What does it actually say over there? Oh, it says to subscribe. If you've enjoyed this guide and you want to learn more about Minecraft, consider pushing this button to subscribe to Toycat. Oh, this is very lovely. Thank you for This Is Chris to putting together this world. Thank you for watching this video, and consider checking out another ultimate guide if you want to learn about more of Minecraft's disciplines. So much has changed over the game since it first launched, and so even myself and Chris have been learning as we've been putting together these videos, and so if you enjoy learning, consider subscribing, because every week we'll have more of these, hopefully. See you next time. Goodbye. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, poor sheep.